This is Cody, and this is Cody's Roadmap to Success. Cody is a 8-year-old, about approximately 8-year-old Australian cattle dog, and he has some separation anxiety. He follows his guardian everywhere. And as a result, a lot of dogs that have separation anxiety don't have any practice being alone. Now, he's a rescue dog. She's only had him for about a year. We don't know what happened for the first 7 or 8 years of his life. And sometimes dogs that bounce around shelters a lot are a little bit more inclined to develop separation anxiety because now I finally have somebody who's taking care of me. Some dogs have separation anxiety because they think they're in charge of their humans, and sometimes it's just that they are so insecure without the presence of their human they don't know how to process it. So one of the things we went over in this session, off camera, I showed the guardian how to teach Cody here to stay. I'd like her to practice that several times a day until, and within about a week to 2 weeks maximum, you'd like to get up to that 5-minute mark of having him stay for duration. Then we're going to start asking him to stay for distance. Now distance, we're going to do 1 step at a time, then 2 steps. And you don't want to start incorporating distance where you're out of his line of sight until you're at about 15 to 20 feet away. So you might want to put him in stay by your door, back up, and then you can step outside the line of the way the room is set up. Or you do it that way. The idea is we want him to practice being alone and not being with us, because otherwise he goes from 100% access to his guardian because he follows her everywhere to she leaves and I have 0% access. And so he's figuring out how to open up windows. And it's dangerous for a dog to get out, and also some dogs get distracted and they choose things. So if the guardian can get to within a week to 2 weeks teaching him to stay for 5 minutes, then she can start incorporating distance. Yes, buddy. And then eventually we want to get to the point where we can have him out of our line of sight and staying for like 15 minutes or so. While we maybe put him in a stay in the bedroom, when we come out here, we'll watch a little TV or whatever it is. And sometimes you have to go longer than that. I'm just guessing at 15 minutes, but it might need to go longer. The general rule is once they hit 2 hours, you don't have to practice beyond 2 hours. Now, the guardian thought he might be peeping on, dripping on the couch that's right next to the window by the front door. We pulled out my black flashlight and we didn't really find a urine stain, so I'm pretty sure it was just drool, which is very normal for a dog to do when they're overstressed. Dogs cool down by opening their mouth and evaporating liquid off of it. When they get overstressed, they just drool a lot. They produce more because of the stress. And I've had dogs where they drool so much people think that it's urine because of the volume. The more that the tips that I went over should help with that, but the guardian wants to make sure she doesn't make a big deal when she leaves or when she returns. We want it to be as nonchalant as possible for that. The more we make a big deal out of leaving, then he's like, oh my, it was great, and then she left, oh my God, I'm freaked out. Now we can do things to help him succeed when we do leave, exercising him before we leave, making sure that he has that excess energy taken care of. I talked to the guardian about starting an exercise journal. Write down the times, the duration, or the number of fetches, or how long the walk was, or whatever it is. And then at the end of each day, give it a letter grade. The next day, play around with the variables until eventually we get to a day where it was an A day behavior-wise. Then we know what he needs in order to achieve or to set him up for success. Also, if he has setbacks, he goes through a window or he freaks out, put the times of those, and as well as what else was going on in addition to the time. That way you can start seeing trends. You want to keep that for about a month. Now, I told the guardian about the dog park on Jocelyn Dog Park, which is just down the street from where I live in Santa Monica on Strand Street, and it's pretty close to him. Now, if he is reactive to dogs, which sometimes he is, and sometimes this is because the dogs are so worked up because they have cortisol in their blood because the guardian's been petting when I'm stressed out, which we talked about, petting with the purpose and passive training, which will help with those two things. But if we pet him when he's stressed out, that's going to make him more stressed out. And so a lot of times we inadvertently try to soothe the dog, it backfires and we amplify the thing we're looking to do. Now, or looking to help them get over. Now, for him, he might be thinking he has to protect his guardian, or if his guardian does things he doesn't think are safe, then he stresses him out, just like a kid who stresses out his parents by not doing the things that we want, or doing dangerous things. So when the guardian takes him to the dog park, we like to exercise him first before we go there. We'd like the first couple times he goes to the dog park to be in off hours, not from the time of 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. So we can go before that, during the day. There's usually not a lot of dogs there, and if you can find a day when there's no dogs there, that's the best time for him to go for the first time. Because it'll smell like every other dog pees. Dogs pee everywhere, he'll be peeing everywhere to cover it all up, but then he gets to process and deal with it without the pressure of other dogs being there. Now, once we get past that and he's been there, then we want to make sure that when we show up, walk up the hill and go to the side entrance for Jocelyn, and then basically just stand up there outside and observe the dogs that that are in there. Sometimes there's a dog that's being a jerk and dominating on the other dogs, and their guardian's not helping. So if that's the case, then pull the plug. We want to make sure he has only good experiences at the dog park. So if he's reacting or barking or lunging or growling, then back away. And you want to find a distance where he can observe the dogs at the dog park without reacting. And sometimes I'll use counter conditioning. I'll take a treat like the Tricky Trainer chicken liver flavored treats, smash them like a pancake, then let the dog nibble on it while he's looking at the dogs that are right over there. So make sure you don't cover up his line of sight by having your arm blocking. So I usually hold it like this. And he's licking it now, but after a while he'll get to the point and he'll start chewing on it. So the idea is when he's looking at the other dogs, he's getting a high value reinforcer. So eventually we'd like to collapse that distance and get closer and closer. We actually get to the point where we're going to go in the dog park, go into the little holding area, the two fences to get, or the area that you can go in, the staging area. And so go in there and then see how he does. The other dogs would come and swarm the entrance. Wait for them to lose interest and walk away. It might be a minute or two. So just, in no rush. And if other people want to come in, say, oh, no, we're just waiting, and leave and let the other dog come in and do their thing and then go back into it. Put him in a position to succeed. I'd rather take more time, make it boring, and go overboard and make him have a successful experience so we can repeat. That's a great way to burn off excess energy than have it be a bad experience and then have another problem that I get a call to come out to fix. Now, there's other things we can do to exercise him, getting a doggy doggy backpack, filling it up with water when he goes on walks, teaching him to dog ski, so having him pull his guardian along the beach on rollerblades or a skateboard or a trike. I pulled out the laser. He wasn't that interested in chasing the laser. Also scent games. The guardian might want to Google scent games, where maybe we put him in the bedroom and we hide 5 treats in the place somewhere and he's got to use his nose to find them. Mental exercise is very draining for dogs, and that'd be another great thing to do before we take him to the dog park. Let me see. Now, most of us train our dogs to misbehave because we give them attention when they misbehave. That's why I went over passive training and petting with a purpose. Passive training or petting with a purpose is if he nudges, which he's a big nudger, and he's telling, give me attention, you're not petting me. Well, if that makes him more clingy, and if he has to earn it by sitting or doing something along those lines, that helps his confidence. It also helps him transition from telling the human to pet me to asking the human to pet me. One is a leadership quality, one is a follower quality. We want him to identify more as a follower. And so after a while, he'll start coming and sitting in front of the guardian, prepaying for attention. Now there's a roommate here, so we maybe enlist the help of our roommate. And if you come in the room and you see I'm petting him and he's standing, tell me paycheck. Then I need to stop petting, tell the dog to sit, and then pet him under his chin, preferably, and say just the word sit. Don't say good sit, don't say, oh, what a smart dog, just the word sit. And not sit, sit. Say it consistently the whole time. And then after a while, he's going to come start sitting in front of you to prepay for attention. And make sure when he does, you reach over and pet him under his chin and say sit. Now, if he's already sitting, ask him to come someone sit over here, or ask him to lay down. He has to do something to change his state or prepay for attention. Now, I also use passive training. Passive training is waiting for the dog to voluntarily do something on its own, and after it does it, rewarding it within that 3-second window. So if the dog comes to me, every time he comes to me, I might pet him and say here. Well, then after a while, when he's out and about somewhere and I say here, he's Johnny on the spot to come up because that means come to me and get attention. Come up with funny command words. And I usually say testify or recognize. So if somebody comes to the room and sees the dog just went and laid down next to me, we have 3 seconds to reward him for that. So somebody sees it, that was 1 second. They tell me testify. Testify means you should be rewarding the dog. I look at the dog. If I ask what did he do, I miss that 3-second window. So they see it and they say testify. I look at the dog, crash. He's laying down. I'm just going to narrate whatever the dog is doing at the time. If he's standing, assume he just came to you. All right, let me see. We went through the stay exercise. We didn't do a video for that, but if a guardian forgets how to do it, message me and I have a video that I can send to you that goes through the 3Ds. Remember, first for duration up to 5 minutes, then for a distance, and stepping away gradually. And eventually when we get about 15 feet, stepping out of his line of sight for just 1 second, coming back, and then give him the treat. And then eventually with distractions, when there are dogs outside, or the new roommate is cooking something, or whatever it is. Once he knows how to stay, and also always remember when you're practicing, always throw that treat to the side and say recess, which is his word that he's released from it. Make sure you do that. A lot of people practice and they forget, and they just get up and walk away, and you teach your dog an auto release, which defeats all the work that you're putting into. So practice 5, 10, 15 times, however many times you want to practice. The last thing you do is toss the treat off to the side. You don't have to do that. By the time you get to 5 minutes on stay, you should be able to, or maybe halfway through the moving away, you should be able to just say recess and have him walk away. If he doesn't, then go back to throwing the treat. Now, once he knows the stay, then I'd like his guardian to start helping him practice staying in progressively longer and longer periods of time. Stay while she goes and refills her glass of water. Stay when she goes to get a drink of wine. Stay when she goes to change clothes or use the bathroom or make a snack or whatever the idea is. The idea is to help him practice being alone so he has something in between 0 access to my human and 100% access. If he has all these varying shades between, now he's practiced being calm when the guardian's using the bathroom, and it's not the end of the world. Now, that combined with not petting him when he's unbalanced states of mind and rewarding desired actions and behaviors through petting with the purpose of passive training should boost his self-esteem and confidence. Dogs that suffer from separation anxiety typically are lower in self-esteem and confidence. Now, there's great, easy ways to fix that. Teaching him new tricks and commands is a wonderful way to do that. Not only does it help to boost the dog's confidence, it gives the guardian's ways to redirect his attention, but it also helps the guardian act like a leader in front of the dog, and the dog see the guardian acting like a leader and contributing the factor of actually teaching me a new skill that helps boost my self-esteem. So maybe set a goal to try to teach him a new trick once a week for 2 months. Go to YouTube, find really easy tricks. They should be tricks at first where you can teach him how to do it within 1 or 2 days. If you do the hard ones, you're going to lose interest and it's going to get frustrated. Now, when you're teaching your dog to do tricks and commands, they should be practiced in 90-second sessions or less. Only stay or things that intentionally require distance when we go beyond that. Within 90 seconds is kind of his butter zone. After you start getting to the 2-minute mark, you'll start getting some failures, and then the dog starts getting frustrated, and you get frustrated with the dog, and then he doesn't want to do it. So always end on a good one, and then afterwards, if you can, give him play with them, romp around, throw the elephant or whatever it is. Help him have a fun experience. So every time at the end of practice, man, it's a fun time. So I want to practice again because I enjoyed building up my confidence, and at the end we get a little playtime. I like the guardian to make sure she's eating before she feeds the dog. Does he eat everything in his bowl? Mm-hmm. Okay. And so just making sure that she eats before she feeds him will help him see and respect her as more of an authority figure because dogs eat in the order of their rank. Now, the other way that I like to flip the leader-follower dynamic is by incorporating rules and structure. Some of the rules we went over, one of them is already in place, not being allowed in the furniture. He does get on the dog on the couch when the guardian leaves, and I gave her a tip that will help us, a product that she can get that will actually keep him off of the couch. Now, there's also there's a carpet around the area around the couch. Guardians eat from it right here. So one of the rules is when we're eating, he's not allowed to be on the carpet. The rest of the time he can, but not when we're eating. When humans are eating in the kitchen, he should not be allowed on the white tile in the kitchen. Now, to enforce these, I usually use the third escalating consequence, marching deliberately at the dog. However, I always want to be positive and force-free. So I might teach the dog to leave the kitchen by going to the dog, taking a treat like that, touching his nose, and then while I'm in the kitchen and tossing it about 2 feet outside the kitchen. The dog goes out of the kitchen and licks it up. Remember, anytime he gets a treat, he should have the command word immediately after. So he leaves the kitchen and licks up the treat, we say the word out. Then he comes back in and we do it a second time. Then we go to this doorway, same thing, do it on the carpet, throw it this way, throw it that way. So he practices exiting those areas in all different directions. Now we're putting it in context when we ask him to leave, he knows how to do that and he's been motivated and rewarded to do that. Come up with funny command words, make a list of the command words, and anytime that we see each other and the roommate can help out with this. So if John sees the guardian is saying, come here, he says, vocabulary, and she's like, come. And the more that we consolidate that, the easier it is for the dog to understand what it is that we want. Let me see. What else did we go over, buddy? Name all your toys. So that's a nice way to redirect his attention for those. Let me see. We went over a focus command off camera. If you forget how to do that, message me and I can send you a link. But that one, you should be able to get to the 15-second mark within about a week. So these are things where for the first month, you're really going to be strict about enforcing these rules and practicing these things. But we want to attack the problem multiple angles. The rules and structure will help him feel more secure and more trusting of the guardian's leadership. The more we give him new skills, the more that he boosts his self-esteem. The more we exercise him, the way we take those things off. So we want to really put him in a position to succeed in a lot of ways. Other rules, making him sit before he go in or out of a door. Make sure on walks, he walks next to the guardian, not in front of her. careful with your finger. Whoever is in front is perceived to be the leader in the dog world. And so if we let the dog go out the door ahead of us on the walk, he's already taken the leadership role. Now, does he do pretty well on the leash, or does he pull a little bit?
He pulls.
Okay, so there's a video, when I put this right up on my website, if you go to Dog Training Tips and look at the write-up that'll be right before this one, I went through, there's a couple, where it talks about loose leash walking tips, but I think the one I just did, yeah, it was on loose leash walking. So you'll be able to watch a video. What I do is I put the dog on a leash and I walk, and as soon as the dog walks in front of me, I stop, and the dog keeps going, and as soon as it gets to the end of the leash, I make a kissing sound and I crouch down. Dog turns around, it comes back to me, and I pop the treat in its mouth and say return. So if you do this enough, what the dog learns is when I get to the end of the leash, if I just turn around and go back to the human, I get a treat. So we get what we call an auto return. And after a while, the dog starts paying more attention to you. Now the other part of the video that I went over that you can watch again, and again, just right above you, or I guess it'll be below you, is what I call the long walk, which is basically stopping every 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 steps. When we go for a walk, we're thinking about the duration and the destination. We get frustrated when the dog pulls because it's like, doing this for you, buddy, why are you fighting me? Well, every time you pull, the dog is programmed to pull against you. So we take away the loose leash, treat you to walk with a loose leash by stopping. Now, the other thing that I do for the long walk is I might go, instead of thinking about going to Jocelyn Dog Park, and this is about half a mile away, I might just walk from the front of my place towards the corner, or just maybe 2 houses back on either direction. And so what I do is I go 3 steps, and I stop and tell the dog to sit. When he sits, I pop the treat in his mouth and say, sit. Then I take 5 steps and stop and say, sit. And then next time I take 1 step. He never knows how many steps, but I never take more than 5 steps. And then I go 2 houses away, then I turn around and go the other direction. So I was like, man, we're just going to walk back and forth in front of our house? Yes. Because now, as a human, I'm just thinking, I have 10 minutes to kill. We're going to practice this back and forth. I'm not thinking about the duration or getting frustrated when the dog pulls or does this other stuff. So watch the video above, and it'll have both, or below, and it'll have both of those tips in there to teach you how to to walk with a loose leash. Let me see, what else did we go over? We went over a lot in 3 hours. Don't walk around him if he's in your way. Walk through him. So his job is to get out of the human's way. It's been a long day for me, buddy. Signs that he's in distress. So if you go to the dog park, or if you see a dog approaching, the very first thing I usually do is stare with a lowered head, and they freeze, or they start moving really slow. Remember, moving slow is a communication, a warning, or I'm indecisive of what I'm doing. So if you're walking down the street and all of a sudden he stops behind you and he won't go, look around you. Are you walking towards another dog? If you are, he might be saying, I'm uncomfortable walking towards that dog. We have a tendency to think, but I'm walking, and we just hurry up, and we're not going to go with... Well, to his perspective, we're walking directly towards another dog, and a front-facing straight approach is very rude and aggressive in the dog world. So if that's the case, if he shows that and you see a dog's approaching you, do a focus exercise. When he looks up at you, you redirect his attention, and then walk a couple paces this way. You might have to walk around a car or a shrub or a building to block his line of sight, and then wait for him to settle down, and only then do you go back to doing it. Now, what I like to do is, I'm not a dog trainer, although I do some dog training. A lot of what I do is teaching dogs how to behave, how to have good manners. And the way that I do that is I try to recreate scenarios where the dog is going to do things that I don't want as well as things that I want, and I try to remove the things that he doesn't want. So if I want the dog to sit, one of the rules is the dog has to sit before I let it out the door. So I go to the door and I tell the dog to sit. Well, I guess that would be a rule. Let me just cover that rule. So go tell the dog to sit. If he doesn't sit, walk away for 1 minute. Then give him another opportunity. I'll only say it once. The more you say it, the less you mean it. You'll program your dog not to listen to you. And don't use good dog or talk a lot. Just say just the command word and nothing else. So if I walk to the door and say sit, and he doesn't sit within 3 seconds, I walk away, watch TV for 1 minute, and then I go back there and tell him to sit. If he sits, then I open the door as soon as he sits down. If he doesn't, I wait 2 minutes before I come back and try again. Next time I wait 4 minutes. And I'm only counting 3 seconds in my head each time. If he doesn't go within 3 seconds, he's got to wait another 1 minute, 2 minute, 4 minute, 8 minute, 16 minute. So he eventually has to wait longer and longer. Now, when you're coming home, on walks, you might want to make him sit before every corner. Every time you go in a doorway, make him sit. I also would suggest you use the stairs. We're in an apartment complex. There's the stairs right outside the door. So every time you go for a walk, go up that flight of stairs and then start walking down the stairs and do that stop and sit thing. He doesn't have to sit. He just can't go ahead of you. So maybe take 5 steps and stop short. And don't let him take the next step. And then go 3 steps and stop short. And then 1 and 4, or whatever the number is. And so that gives you an opportunity to help him practice looking at you as you're going down the stairs. And it helps him practice focusing on you and pacing with you. Now for the what I was talking about, I call this light switch on, light switch off, creating a stage scenario. So this is a little bit about the video that we did at the door. But basically what I do is, let's say that I come in and I want to pet him, but he's all excited. I want to tell him that I want him to be calm. Well, if I say calm down, and I keep on saying calm down every time he's excited, calm down eventually is the command word to get excited, to get worked up, not to get calmed down. So what I would do is when I come in, or the guest comes in, and he's all excited, I just ignore him. And as soon as he calms down, then I turn and I start engaging with the dog. And you won't even make it all the way to the dog. As soon as you turn, he starts wiggling. Remember, excited is not necessarily happy. It can be, but not always. But it's an unbalanced state of mind. So as soon as I turn to him, he starts wiggling, I turn back. I don't say no. I don't chastise him. I don't correct him. I just continue about doing what I was doing. And I'm watching him out of the corner of my eye. As soon as he calms down again, I again start to re-engage. And this will be a lot of, I call this light switch on, light switch off. Light switch on is turning to engage. As soon as he gets excited, I lose interest, I turn the light switch off. And if you're precise with this, remember you have 3 seconds to correct your reward, but your goal should be 1/3 of a second. So if within 1/3 of a second, as soon as he starts excited, you turn away and walk away or just turn to the side, after a while with enough repetition, he'll learn, as soon as I get overexcited, she loses interest in me. As soon as I sit, she's all over me. So I'm going to start offering to sit or laying down. I've done this with a lot of dogs that get excited at the door, dogs that were jumping up and nipping and drawing blood. They weren't aggressive. They were just so excited they lost control of their motor skills. So the other exercise, the fourth quadrant of operant conditioning, the video above this one, will help with that. Flop is what I call it. This would be a good opportunity to passive training. So he moves on his side, I call that flop. So every time I go on my side, I hear flop and I'm getting petted. Then later on, if she wants to go get him on the side, we say flop and he rolls over and we pet him. And so by creating a stage scenario, as soon as he's calm, I'm engaging. As soon as he's excited, I disengage. Now, I also like to break down things in individual steps, like going to, I'll use the leash. He gets excited when you pick up the leash, right, for walks. So a lot of us, this is an example of classical conditioning. A lot of us say, you want to go for a walk? You want to go for a walk? You want to go for a walk? And the dog gets all crazy. And then we wonder why the dog can't listen to us on the walk. Well, the excitement level the dog has in the house is the energy level he's going to carry with him on a walk. So the first thing I do is I don't narrate. Let's say the leash is here, and this is not to scale. I get up and I start walking towards it. As soon as the dog recognizes we're going for a walk, it runs ahead of you. As soon as it moves in front of you, it's trying to take that leadership position. So as soon as it passes in front of me, I just turn and I go sit down. The dog gets there, he's like, all right, where we go? Where did he go? Why are you sitting over there? Are we going for a walk? No, as soon as you take the leadership role, I lose interest. Flop. And then as soon as the dog is calm, then I get up and I start walking again. And at first, you'll get here before you have to turn around. Then you'll get here, then here. You get closer and closer, and eventually the dog will figure this out and stay behind you the whole way. The next step is when I get to where the leash is, I tell the dog to sit. Tell him, don't ask him. And as soon as he sits, I start reaching for the leash. As soon as I do that, he wiggles and gets up, I pull my arm back, and I just freeze. I just wait. I don't tell him to sit. And as soon as he sits down and figures it out on his own, by sitting on his own, that's when I start re-engaging. And so I disengage and re-engage over and over again, and he eventually figures out, so I have to stay seated in order for David to pick up the leash. Once I get to the point where I pick it up, if he starts wiggling, I put it back down. And if he gets really excited, I can walk away and go sit in the chair again and wait for him to settle down. Now, the best time to practice this are at times that you don't plan on taking him for a walk. Because usually we're busy. I got 15 minutes, I can walk you, and I don't have time to spend 15 minutes going back and forth. Well, if you have 5 minutes during commercials and watching the Daily Show, then you just practice for 5 minutes. When you get done, the dog's like, oh, I screwed up because I was so excited. Now we're not going for a walk. Darn my luck. Next time I'm going to be calm faster. And so by practicing and giving yourself time, we take away our emotional baggage. We help the dog understand the thing that gets me to continue is by being calm. And so eventually the dog will stay calm throughout. Now, and breaking it down into individual steps and helping the dog practice the first step over and over until it can do that first step by itself, then I go to the next step and practice that one until the dog can do that. And do this for each individual step until the dog does all the individual steps by itself. I'm teaching the dog how I want it to behave. Most of us expect our dog to figure this out, or if we do try to teach him to do it, we do it when we're in the moment, which is the worst time to learn anything. So by breaking it down into an individual classroom setting, a little passive training, we help the dog take the pressure off the dog, we help the dog relax, the dog builds up its confidence and knows now what to do for each individual step. Then when we actually bring all the steps together, and once the dog can do that, stretch, then we can bring the dog and then start adding in the real world elements one at a time until we get, so he's doing this so you can say bashful. Again, passive training. But eventually we'll work him back up to being able to do the real world situation with all of the accoutrement of the real world, and he's able to do it because we prepared him, we've taught him how we want him to behave, and we helped him practice it, and now it's easy peasy for him. All right, well this is Cody's butt, and this is Cody's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you need it, right buddy?